We also have with us Professor Sparta, who's a historian and a lawyer with PhD in social sciences. She works as a professor and researcher at the University of Buenos Aires, Argentina, where she teaches history of colonialism and decolonization and contemporary history of independent countries in Africa and Asia. Now I would invite Professor Sparta from Argentina.
Hello, good evening. Are you hearing me? Yes? Okay. Hi. Good morning or good evening. Good evening. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Well, we can hear you, but your voice is breaking.
Yes. Oh, let me see what can I do.
Yes. Continue. Continue.
It is better now. You. Yes. Okay. I try to. Oh, let me see. Okay. Well, can you hear now? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. When we talk about migration, I can say that Argentina has a very close link to migration because the growth of population in the country since the nation state appeared, it was in 1853, it's due, I can say, not exclusively, but in more than 50% to migration. The problem that we have in Argentina with migration since the first years of the existence of this country is that we have only recognized that migration in Argentina and the population is European. Only we are all European, and there is there aren't our origins of the population. In the last years, or perhaps in the last decades of 20th century, we began to accept, or perhaps the official discourse has changed, accepting that there are other origins like from Africa, Asia, and also Latin American people that in this moment are more than 1 million in the country, are also part of Argentina. Although it can mean that this is the end of discrimination, we can say that in practice, discrimination still exists, and that with COVID-19, it has increased, I can say that with a lot of visibility. The first victims when COVID-19 has its first case in Argentina, it was around March 3rd, where Chinese and Korean that were found guilty of this pandemic, and many of them have been compelled to close their supermarkets because people didn't want to have any contact with them. And a lot of complaints were posed to the National Institute Against Discrimination, Xenophobia, and Racism because of this reason. But in this moment, what we have is a wider discrimination because although Argentinians think that we are all European, in this moment, Europeans are also seen like a threat, and many Italians, many Spanish people have suffered from discrimination, and this was accompanied by the measures that our government took. What happened with COVID-19 in Argentina? I can say that it has been a very early reaction from the government, because when we had only more or less 130 cases, the government decided to close borders completely, to prohibit any flight from Europe, and more than around 300 people, especially from Spain and from Italy, were deported. So there was the first reaction from the government before applying a total quarantine that it was in March 20th. So what happens till since March 20th is that borders are completely closed. People from countries like, as I said, Spain or Italy, and of course, the big communities of Chinese and Koreans that are more than 100,000 people are the most discriminated. But in the case of people who have been not a long time in Argentina, uh, some of them are tourists, but many of them are also migrants, if we can say that. No, it's as Professor Carria said, it's very difficult to know which is the meaning of the word, but they are discriminated in this moment, but they can't go back to their countries. And we are now with another big problem that is especially linked to Argentine people. Why? Because Argentina is facing a very, very difficult economic situation. We have to pay the debt to the IMF, and the government said that we have not possibility to pay that debt. So we are facing default, and in these times, many Argentines went to other countries to live, but many of them now need to go back because they can't find any job, or perhaps many of them lost their jobs. And the problem is that the country is not receiving those Argentinians that are in many countries of the world. So this is one big problem to immigrants in this moment. But if we have to talk about immigrants in Argentina, I am referring to new immigrants because, as I said before, in Argentina we are all migrants. There's only a very small population that is indigenous. But what happens to immigrants that came to Argentina in the last year? We have a big quantity of immigrants from Venezuela. They are more than 100,000 that arrived in the last 5 years. And the problem is that many of them don't have the documents that they need to work as legal inhabitants. They don't have the resident rights that are permanent, and so they can't have the help that the government gave to many Argentinians during this crisis, this COVID-19 crisis, because they are not permanent residents. So this is the first problem, because these immigrants have been the first who have suffered from the loss of their jobs, because they work in restaurants, hotels, and they are the most affected because restaurants and hotels are all completely closed. And this is the first problem for many of them. It is estimated that the 58% of migrants cease to perceive an income during the quarantine. So in the last 2 months, they had not at all any income. And we have also a big problem with a number that is not very clear, but that has increased in the last years, that are Africans that arrived to the country since the last decade of 20th century. They are all people who work, I can say that mostly in the streets. They sell in the street. They are Senegalese people in the majority. And so as they are informal sellers, street level informal sellers, they can't go on working because people can't be in the streets. In this moment, we can say that the quarantine is being flexibilized a little, not at all, but the problem is that migrants, I can say migrants in the strict sense of the word, those who came in the last years to Argentina, are in a very difficult situation. And they can't in any way return to other countries because, as I said before, there are no flights because the borders are completely closed. And the problem in Argentina is that as the quarantine has been very early imposed, very early, in a moment that economic situation is very difficult to everyone, the government is thinking, especially in Argentinian, but Argentinian that live in Argentina, not those who are in other countries that try to go back and can't receive any help from the government because the government says that it has no money at all. And so the problem is, I think that is double, is for immigrants from Argentinian people who are in other countries and who want to go back to Argentina that have no money to be in other, especially most of them are in Spain, United Kingdom, Italy, or many other countries, and can't afford their life. And the other problem is that are very recent migrants that have any income. So we don't know exactly what is going to happen. What the president has said is that the flights, commercial flights, are going to be back in September. So this big problem that is no income, no possibilities to go back to their countries, for instance, for Venezuelan or people from other Latin American places, and the other problem from Argentina who are in other countries, is a problem I can say without solution.
Please wrap up.
So,
Please wrap
okay.
up.
So, just to close this topic, what I can say that the last chapter has not been written. What we are having every day are more and more complaints about discrimination, about lacks of possibilities. So the situation now is very difficult in Argentina to immigrants and for immigrants too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Sparta. Thank you very much for your elaboration.